Hare Krishna. Welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in this episode, we will continuing our study on the glories of the Panchatattva, part 4. We'll be reading from the 40th verse of the 7th chapter of the Adilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 7.40 onwards. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we will just recap the verse that is under discussion in the 7th chapter. This is actually the 14th verse of the Adilila. Remember? So the first 8 chapters, in fact, are based on the first 14 important, or first 17. Yeah, first 14. Actually, first 17. Sorry. First 17 important verses. Of course, the 14 are the important, and then the 15, 16, 17 are the Sambandhadideva, Abhidheyadideva, and Prayojanadideva Pranati Mantra. So anyway, the first 14 verses are very, very important, explaining the Panchatattva in great detail. And they have been expanded upon in these chapters. So this is the 14th verse. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So the Panchatattva are described here, each of them. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Now, all this may sound the same, but actually they are different personalities. Each of them is a different personality. Krishna is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a devotee. Devotional manifestation. Bhaktarupa devotee. Swarupakam, expansion of a devotee. That is Nityananda Prabhu. Bhaktavataram, that is Advaita Prabhu, incarnation of a devotee. Bhakta Akhyam, that is a devotee which is Srivas Thakur. And Bhakta Shaktikam, the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who supplies energy to the devotee. This is the internal potency, who is Radharani. that is Gadadhar Pandit. So we will continue from where we left off. We're actually supposed to start from 7.40, but I'm just going to take you to 38 so that we just recap a little bit what we were discussing in the previous session. So we were discussing this very important topic of the inventions that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come up with in order to attract all the souls that were running away from him. And the trick that he employed was to take sannyas, so that even those who are blasphemers will have to bow down to him and thus receive his mercy. So in that way he took sannyas and benedicted them. Now here in the 738 it is said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to deliver all the fallen souls. Therefore, he devised many methods to liberate them from the clutches of Maya. So there are many methods. One of them is, of course, the most prominent one is the sannyas, which he took especially to capture those souls running away from him. But even otherwise, he started this Sankirtan movement, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the general mass of people, and philosophical discussions with those who are scholarly, and distribution of prasadam to the general mass of people again. And also through his devotees he instructed the rest of the devotees like us how to advance in Krishna consciousness. For example, Chota Haridas, he chastised him for a mistake of looking at a woman as a sannyasi. So he devised many of these plans to liberate us from the clutches of Maya. He has been so lenient upon us and strict upon his own devotees to show us the path. So anyway, like this he has devised many methods. And he devised means his devotees, his representatives, the Acharya, they also devise. So each Acharya may devise a particular means to attract the conditioned souls. But as we have discussed in last week's session and also the Tattvadarshan, the last Tattvadarshan show on Instagram Live, we have also discussed this point about inventions in preaching. And such inventions cannot be inventions of philosophy. They can be inventions of how to get the people attracted to Krishna consciousness, but not diluting the philosophy. So our Acharya, he knows how to do these things. But if we dilute the philosophy, that's no more our movement. That's what Shankaracharya did, and that also we have studied in that Tattvadarshan episode and also the last week's episode. Okay? So it's very important to understand this point, because sometimes ISKCON devotees, those who are followers of the so-called ISKCON gurus, nowadays they are inventing so many substandard methods of so-called propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they support themselves by using verses like these. And this is what we cannot support. We have to understand how to correct that. If somebody comes up with an argument, we should know how to reply back. We have to know the philosophy ourselves. Right? So he devised many means, right? So now in the 39th verse it was said, all were converted into devotees of Lord Chaitanya, even the Mlechas and Yavanas. Mlechas and Yavanas are those who are outside the Varnashram system, lower than Shudras, 5th class, 6th class men, meat eaters, those who don't follow at all the injunctions of the Shastra. So he converted them also. Only the impersonalist followers of Shankaracharya evaded him. Now even after his grand efforts, still the impersonalist followers of Shankaracharya evaded him. So here we have also read in great detail what is Mayavadi. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained what is Mayavadis. Kashir Mayavadi and what is the other one? Saranath Mayavadis. Yes, which is very nearby to Kashi. So we have read this last week. So today we will go from 7.40. वृंदावन जायते प्रभु रहिला काशीते मायावादी गण तारे लागिला निंदिते. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through Varanasi on his way to Vrindavan, the Mayavadi sannyasi philosophers blasphemed against him in many ways. So he went to Kashi. He knew Kashi is the hub of all Mayavadis. So he went to Kashi to deliver them. So purport: while preaching Krishna consciousness with full vigor, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu faced many Mayavadi philosophers. Similarly, we are also facing opposing swamis, yogis, impersonalists, scientists, philosophers, and other mental speculators, and by the grace of Lord Krishna, we successfully defeat all of them without difficulty. This is again another very important verse. A follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaudiya Vaishnava, he has to be in this mood, that he has to be ready to face all the opposing philosophies and philosophers and defeat them. This is not to just engage ourselves in useless argument. You see, there is a verse, today morning also Sundagopal Prabhu was showing this here. 11, 18, 30, and this is a very important verse for all Vaishnavas. वेदवाद रतो न स्यान्न पाषण्डेन हैतुकः शुष्कवाद विवादेन कंचित् पक्षं समाश्रयेत्. This is the code of conduct for devotees, this verse. Okay? It's like a summary of the code of conduct, especially what he should not do. Yeah? A devotee should never engage in the fruitive rituals mentioned in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas. First thing, he cannot engage in fruitive rituals. Nor should he become atheistic, acting or speaking in opposition to Vedic injunctions. We cannot do that. Similarly, he should never speak like a mere logician or skeptic or take any side whatsoever in useless arguments. Now, logician means trying to understand this world by logic rather than from Shastra. Logic has to be applied, yes, but that has to be in conjunction with the Shastra. Because in Shastra also Krishna is explaining so much logic in Bhagavad Gita. Now, unless revealed by him, we cannot understand that logic. And of course, through his pure devotee, then we can enter into the understanding of that logic also. But if we just use or depend on our own brain to come up with the logic, then that's going to be defective. So we cannot speak like a mere logician or a skeptic or take any side whatsoever in useless arguments. Now, we cannot take side. Shushkavada vivadena. Shushkavada means useless topics. Now, Shushka also means dry actually. Dry. Now, what is this useless arguments? Based on the material, like this is better, that is better, this is worse, that is worse. Based on material things. That is useless. Because actually, in the ultimate sense, it's not a substantial argument. The whole material existence is not substantial. So what is the point? It's like arguing between dry stool and wet stool. Oh, the dry stool is better than the wet stool. What is the point? Both are stool. So that is a useless argument, Shushkavada. So such arguments one should not take part in. But there are useful arguments. What is that? What is a useful argument? Now, an argument by which the truth is established by separating it from the untruth. This is very important for a devotee. He has to understand both side by side, what is spiritual knowledge and what is material knowledge, and we have to be able to distinguish between the two. And one is actually the path of ignorance and one is knowledge. So we should know, and to do that, there has to be sometimes, because so many people are advocates of avidya or ignorance in the name of knowledge, maya apahrita jnana. See, sometimes these kind of people, we will go back. You see, in the purport, what Srila Prabhupada mentioned, similarly, we are also facing opposing swamis, yogis, impersonalists, scientists, philosophers, and other mental speculators. So these people are usually intelligent. They have intelligence, but completely misused. So they are classified as, here in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, नमाम दुष्कृतनो मूढ़ा प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमा मायया अपहृत ज्ञाना. Mayaya apahृत ज्ञाना means the knowledge of their knowledge is stolen by illusion. Their so-called intelligence is completely influenced by illusion. You see, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. What does that mean? That means they may appear knowledgeable, but and also appear very intelligent in materialistic activities, but all their activities are based on avidya or ignorance of the real spiritual principles, which is actually knowledge. Real knowledge means we have to understand Atma Tattvam. If we don't understand that, then our life is a complete failure. It is explained in this verse 5:5:5 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Parabhavastavad jato yavanna jignasata atmatattvam yavat kriyastavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. You see, yavanna jignasata atmatattvam. As long as we do not inquire about atmatattvam. What is this atmatattvam? The truth of the self. That means separating it from the untruth. Now we think our self means this body. That is untruth. Now the truth of the self is that we are not the body. We have nothing to do with this. We have nothing to do with this material world. We are actually a spirit soul. And to separate this spirit from matter, that is a sign of knowledge. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, we have 2nd chapter, 16th verse. Na sato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate satah ubhayorapi drishtontastvanayostattvadarshibhih. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. This studying of the nature of spirit and matter should be there. But it has to be done under the guidance of Krishna, who is the master of both these energies. Not under the direction of so-called teachers who are under the influence of the material nature, or the materialistic teachers, in other words. We cannot learn from them about the material world. Today, one of the devotees in the morning Bhagavatam class, Vishwambar Prabhu actually brought out this point that some people say that this studying of nature of both the spiritual and material knowledge means one must have material education, one must have spiritual education, and both side by side we must have. That is not the meaning of this. We have to understand about the material nature and spiritual nature from the engineer of, or the source of both these natures, which is Krishna. He is the source of real knowledge of both these natures of material and spiritual. We cannot learn about material nature from the materialist. He is illusioned by the trick of Maya. Maya is playing so many tricks. In fact, illusion means what? We are under the illusion. Now, when we are under the illusion, we cannot be teachers. A teacher should be outside the illusion. Like if, suppose a magic trick, who can teach us a magic trick, who understands, who is not illusioned by the trick, who knows how to illusion others, but he himself is not illusioned by the trick. He knows how to trick. So he knows that it is not something out of the blue. He has a trick how to do it. So one who knows the reality and the illusion, he can teach about the magic trick. But a person who is already illusioned by the trick, how can he teach others? He may teach something, but that is not the trick. That's not the fact of the trick. So we need to understand the tricks of Maya from the person who is making those tricks. The real magician. We have to learn from him. The same thing is echoed in Ishopanishad. If I'm not wrong, 11th verse. Yes. Of Ishopanishad, you see, Vidyam cha vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya mritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. Now, in the morning also, Sundar Gopal Prabhu was mentioning very nicely that if I learn about the material nature from the materialist, I will be motivated to enjoy the material nature. Whereas, if I learn about material nature from the real trickster, Krishna, then we will get disgusted with material nature. We will be very much enthused towards spiritual nature, which is devotional service to Krishna, our real life. So that's the difference between learning from these two different teachers. Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master. If we learn from them, then we will not fall into illusion and we will get disgusted with this illusory energy. Whereas if we learn from the materialist, we will want to enjoy the material energy. There is a very big difference. See? So, these philosophers that are mentioned in this purport, they are Mayaya Apahrata Jnana, those whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion. And why should we engage in arguments with them or defeat their arguments? In fact, that is a great service. Why? Because these so-called intelligent people become usually the leaders of society, either by political leadership, or nowadays there are many ways to become a leader. With social media, you can become an influencer. So these influencers, they influence many others. Yadyad acharati shreshthas tattadevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanuvartate. So, whatever the famous people do, the common man will follow. So the entire population is put into this ignorance if the leaders are speaking like that. So therefore, they must be defeated. Even if they don't accept it, the followers, at least some of them, like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu debated with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, Keshav Kashmiri even, when he defeated them, they actually accepted defeat and they converted. Nowadays, they don't even accept defeat, even after you defeat them. No shame. That means they're not interested in real knowledge. If one is interested in real knowledge, when somebody presents the real knowledge, and when the folly is exposed, he should, oh yeah, actually that makes sense. He has to have the humility to accept that. But nowadays, where is such quality? Where is it nurtured? No, they think they're fine. So what we can do. So you may ask, what is the point of arguing then? Because he's not going to accept anyway. So our thing is, he may or may not accept, but the followers, at least some of them can be saved. Like you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has of course converted this Mayavadis, but you see even now the Mayavadi philosophy is there. And it is bewildering so many people. And they don't accept our philosophy. But at least some of them will begin to accept. So to save them, we have to do this. And we have to present the truth. We have to fight for Krishna. Now, we have to defeat them in argument means we have to fight for Krishna. Just like Arjuna, he fought for Krishna. Of course, he fought with arrows and that's his skill. Now, we are not experienced in arrow fighting or, what is that? Archery. But our fighting can be that there is two ways, two weapons. One is the astra, one is the shastra. Shastra and astra is actually the same. Shas dhatu. Dhatu, the root word is shas, means to chastise or to control. Shas means to control. So, those astra, the weapons, are used to also control or stop the force of the enemy. And shastra, shas dhatu plus astra is shastra. So the weapon with which to control the people, what does that mean? Control people means more not just to enslave them, but to direct them, fence them from going without control and out of order. That is the meaning. So there has to be an order. There has to be lanes on the road. There is this line, right? And they divide, and then we have lanes, and then we have to drive on that. In India, I have seen they still don't understand the concept of lanes very much. They just drive as if the whole road is their playground. So, in outside India, they follow strictly. Nowadays, India also is catching up a little bit. So, lanes. So, one has to stay in the lane. That is control. Even if there is no control, it is disorderly. And it can turn into chaos. So, therefore, control is necessary. And in fact, every country has Shastra. Their constitution is their own Shastra. But such Shastra is meant to control the people, but because it is man-made, it does not take into account the real laws of nature. It is not in synchrony with the real laws of nature set by Krishna. Therefore, what is defined as crime in a constitution may not be sin in the laws of God, Krishna, and what is defined as sin in the laws of Krishna may not be termed as crime in the man-made law. So that's why it's defective. But previously, in the Vedic age, kings used to rule their kingdoms according to Manu Samhita or Manu Smriti, which is actually the code of conduct or the constitution for entire mankind, which is based on this religious principles. It is actually one of the Dharma Shastras. So this Dharma Shastra, Manu Samhita was and Yajnavalkya Samhita. These were the books that were the guiding principles. And of course they were based on ultimately the Bhagavad Purana and all this Vedic literature. Then it will be in synchrony. Like for example, if a man murders another man or a woman, he has to be killed because life for a life. That is the law. If we kill, then we have to be killed. Otherwise, if he's not killed, if he's just given a sentence of like some years in the prison, that's not going to be the same, because under the laws of karma, he will have to be killed again. So in the next life, he will have to pay for that. Whereas by executing him under the law of the state, he is absolved of that sin of murder. And then next life, he will start afresh. There will be no untoward incidents because of that murder in the previous life, because it is already settled. The score is settled. So actually it is an act of mercy on the criminal. But these are not understood. The laws of karma are not understood in the modern context, and therefore the laws that are laid down in the constitution are defective, man-made laws. So anyway, the Shastra, that Shastra weapon we can use and shoot the arrows at all these unscrupulous so-called leaders, misleaders of society, who take the forms of swamis, yogis, impersonalists, scientists, philosophers, mental speculators. These are all different classes of philosophers who deviate mankind from the actual aim of life and give them facility to commit sinful activities. So this has to be condemned, this has to be exposed, and that is a very important service for a devotee. Okay, now we will go to the next verse. सन्यासी हो या करे गायन नाचन ना करे वेदांत पाठ करे संकीर्तन. This was the criticism that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu faced. Now another thing about devotees is that not only should we attack all these parties by philosophy, but also an attack means not simply to hate them. No, we have to attack means to help them correct their misunderstandings. And even if they don't learn, the people who are listening, they will learn. It's not exactly to spread hatred, but to stop the misinformation. That has to be clarified. So, otherwise it can be misconstrued, my statement. So, anyway, now you see, the other thing about preaching is that not only have we to face this thing, but we also will face so many criticisms. So this is not new. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, God himself faced criticism. What to speak of anybody else? So this is another thing we have to grow a thick skin about. That means we will be criticized for presenting the truth as it is, but we cannot waver from the truth just because somebody is criticizing. We have to present the truth without compromise. See, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is criticized in this way. Sannyasi ya kare gayana nachan na kare vedanta patha kare sankirtan. The blasphemers said, although a sannyasi, he does not take interest in the study of Vedanta, but instead always engages in chanting and dancing in sankirtan. What kind of sannyasi is this? Sannyasi should be very grave, should not be too, jovial, or should not be too emotional. He is supposed to have risen above these petty emotions of, unnecessary jubilation or unnecessary, lamentation. He is supposed to be above this and sober in his disposition, and he has to be, seeing everything with a very sober mind. But then they thought, oh, what is this? What kind of sannyasi is this? He is just chanting and singing and dancing like an emotional person, sometimes crying also. What is this? This is not sannyasi. He does not even have control over his emotions. In fact, Prakashananda Saraswati asked him, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked him, I think, Chaitanya, you have taken sannyas prematurely. I think Prakashananda or Sarvabhauma, one of them. You are only 24 years old and you have taken sannyas, and look at you, you don't even have control over your senses. You are just sentimental and emotional, and with all materialists around you dancing and all the grihasthas and everything. You are not made for sannyas yet. You are still uncooked or immature yet. So why did you take sannyas prematurely? So these were the kind of criticisms. Now we'll read from the purport. Fortunately or unfortunately, we also meet such Mayavadis who criticize our method of chanting and accuse us of not being interested in study. They do not know that we have translated volumes and volumes of books into English, and that the students in our temples regularly study them in the morning, afternoon and evening. We have to actually do this. Every day we must study these literatures, morning, afternoon, evening. Not only distribute or not only do seva, but also study this literature. Now, of course, Srila Prabhupada is attacking such Mayavadis by saying that we also have so much philosophy, and our students also study. It's not that we don't study. That means, in other words, Vaishnavas, as Vaishnavas or followers of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we have to study also. Devotees cannot be fools. That's why we have started the BVA program, so that there is test, there is some kind of impetus to study. Otherwise, nowadays, with so much distraction, social media and this and that, devotees, I mean, even Prabhupada's time also, Prabhupada was, pushing the devotees, you have to read, Many devotees were not reading. And what happens if we don't read is that when there will be test, Krishna will test us in life. He will test us in the association of devotees. Sometimes we will find fault or offend the devotees because of a wrong way of thinking, because we have not been studying the literature and training our mind how to think as a devotee. It is not a tip. Oh, Prabhu, can you give me some tips on how to control my anger? This is not a tip. This is, what you see as a tip, like an iceberg has a tip of the iceberg. Underneath, there is, 90% of the iceberg is actually below the surface of the water. Only 10% is what is visible on top. So you just imagine how much actually deep we have to go in our understanding in order to manifest that tip. So it is a whole lifestyle that we have to adopt, the whole way of thinking. So for that we have to regularly, every day read Srila Prabhupada's books. If we don't do that, I am sorry, we will fail. I mean, the last exam is death. But Maya will not wait for the last exam. She wants to fail us way before that. Like I say, when I conduct this BVA program, I am a kind of a sadist at heart, because I don't want the students to pass. I mean, what I actually mean is that if they scrutinizingly study and if they can pass these exams, at least, it is not everything, it is just one step closer. Studying is one thing, but then putting it into practice is a whole new game. Because study is just the first step. And we have to actually practically apply in our lives. So that we have to be trained on devotees. But if we don't even understand what we have to practice, like even if I can't practice, at least I have to know what I should be doing, even though practically I'm not able to do it. And then when the instruction is given, we can understand, we can follow. Otherwise, sometimes when the devotees, when they in the course of training, when they chastise, the devotee who has never read the books, he will feel offended. He doesn't understand the value of such chastisement, that correction, and he fails in this exam itself, while alive. Maya doesn't want to wait until the last exam. No. Fail as much as possible before. So I also try to take that kind of stand. I try to fail them. So if you pass, okay, that's good. So the tests will be there all throughout the life. And then finally the death. So sometimes we fall for material enjoyment, sometimes we offend devotees, sometimes we offend shastras, sometimes we offend the temple, seva aparad, dham aparad, nam aparad, Vaishnava aparad. So many aparad or offenses that we can commit and fall away. And when will we commit these aparad? When we cannot distinguish what is material and what is spiritual. We consider devotees to be materialistic people, then aparad happens. Or we consider non-devotees as good as devotees. Like trying to be too humble with the non-devotees and not humble with the devotees. Or not just that, taking some advice, philosophical advice from non-devotees. All these are unnecessary. In fact, recently, one devotee, he was promoting, so-called devotee, but he's promoting one book openly on Facebook. What is that? Relationships That Work. Relationships That Work. The book title. Some materialistic book, and he is promoting on Facebook. Read. This is highly recommended. I recommend you to read. What is this? But he doesn't take advice from devotees. He doesn't even consult anything with the devotees. But he's consulting this book, which is not even written by a devotee. All the good qualities are automatically achieved by devotees. What is the need to gain another good quality from somewhere? You don't need. So these are all aparadh. So many subtle ways we do aparadh, offenses, and fall away from devotional life. So to safeguard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have mentioned this in that gardening lesson in the Tattvadarshan episode, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said we have to be like an expert gardener, and we have to nurture the creeper of devotion, Bhaktilata. If we don't, then what happens is that we can't distinguish between the Bhaktilata and the weeds, and will give facility for the weeds, and then it will stunt the growth, completely finish the growth of the creeper, and the creeper dies. So in this way, these are all dangers. So if we always water the creeper by Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting. Chanting we have to do carefully, trying to avoid the offenses, and hearing. In fact, only when we hear can we avoid the offenses. Chanting is there, but we will commit offenses because we have not been hearing, we are not understanding the importance of the holy name. Therefore, we minimize the importance of the holy name, and therefore, while chanting, we do this and that, this and that. All these is offenses because we don't understand how great actually the holy name is. We forget these things, and therefore we fall back into materialistic life. Now, when we read every day, although we have read the glories of the holy name here and there, but then memory fades because it is replaced every day by other thoughts, and then that thought is buried, what we have read. Unless we bring it to the surface every day by reading and reading, it always stays fresh. If we don't, then everything becomes stale, then we lose importance. Maya slowly covers the understanding with other layers of thoughts, other layers of so-called materialistic knowledge and everything, and then it's buried, and then we gradually forget the importance, and then all these offenses come into play. Therefore, reading is very important. Yeah? Vaishnavas should not be fools. Vaishnava is supposed to be greater than Brahmana. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Brahmana is a person who knows Brahma or the spiritual science. And Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdate. 3 stages of spiritual knowledge of the absolute truth. There is Brahman, impersonal Brahman, Brahmajyoti, and Paramatma, localized Paramatma, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even among these Brahma, everything is Brahma. Absolute truth is one. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. So everything is spirit. But there is the infinitesimal spirit which we are. And in the infinite spirit also there is 3 stages of understanding. So even the lowest stage of understanding, an impersonalist, he is also considered a Brahmana. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Now, but his janati means one who knows. Now, he only knows partially. Even then, he is called Brahmana. But one who is a Vaishnava, he knows the Bhagavan feature, which then means that he also knows the Paramatma and Brahma. That means how knowledgeable he must be than the ordinary Brahmana. That is Vaishnava standard. That is the status on which the Vaishnava stands. That means, in other words, if we call ourselves Vaishnavas, we have to come to that understanding. It is not simply a rubber stamp. Like Gandhi, he said, oh, these people are Harijans. You cannot discriminate against them. So just by putting a rubber stamp, they don't become Harijans. The whole mission is to make everybody Harijan. But that Harijan means by quality, not by rubber stamping. Although he is a rascal idiot, and then just rubber stamp him as a Harijan and then make him something great. This is called euphemism. Euphemism means giving a better name than what actually the reality is. The name must match the reality. Vaishnava means he has to be on the standard of Vaishnava actually. Not simply having the name of Vaishnava, but in quality he is not Vaishnava. What is the point? It's like calling somebody, there's a proverb Prabhupada used to mention, that the man, he had a blind son. He had a son who was blind. But then he named him out of affection as Kamal Lochana. Kamala Lochana. That means lotus-eyed one. Now, that maybe shows some affection of the father, but that's not reality. It's far from the reality. Kamalalochan, you cannot even see first of all, but his name is like that. So just by giving somebody a name, although he is a blind rascal, completely blinded by material, nature, you just can't what is that? Give a euphemistic name like Harijan. Harijan or Mahajan is a person who, or Mahatma is who, Bahunam Janmanam Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. One who surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna, completely 100%, he is Mahatma. Definition of Mahatma by quality, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Everything is by Guna and Karma. Yasaya Lakshanam Proktam. We have to judge everything by merit, by Lakshana, by quality, or Guna and Karma, by activity and quality. Not rubber stamping, either by Janma or by political rubber stamping or whatever rubber stamping. No. So, in other words, if we are following this path, it is said that, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, Guru More Murkho Dekhi Karila Shasan. He said, I am a great fool, so therefore my spiritual master has asked me that you cannot read Vedanta, you just chant Hare Krishna. Now, although he presented, every disciple should consider himself a fool before the spiritual master, but he should not be actually fool. Then it reflects badly on the spiritual master. What kind of guru he has no knowledge. So, in other words, we are bringing disrepute to Srila Prabhupada by not reading his books. We are bringing insult to Prabhupada. We are facilitating others to insult Prabhupada. We are also insulting Prabhupada because we are not reading his books, for which he labored so hard every single night he wrote. So it is everything is wrong about it. So we have to read. Okay? So the criticism of Mayavadis, when they say like that, we should be able to counter that. We cannot let, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he defeated all of them in argument. And Prabhupada said in the previous purport that devotees also should be able to defeat all these defective philosophies and philosophers. So in order to do that, we have to have knowledge. If we don't have knowledge, then they are just going away. And you may say, Prabhu, they did not argue with me, they are just doing whatever. No, we have to attack still. Because they are, influencing so many people. Even if they did not pick up an argument with us, we have to argue with them. We have to bring that point up and defeat that philosophy. Why? To help bring about real information, real knowledge. So we have to do that. This is a very great service, very important service to educate the masses. So if people are going in this world, with their own philosophies, we cannot say, oh, what to do, Prabhu, Kali Yuga, everybody is just like, they're speaking whatever they want. No. We just can't turn a blind eye or, take it lightly. We have to expose and bring the real knowledge to light and defeat the other person. Because when real knowledge is spread, then the policies will be based on that real knowledge, and then eventually the re-education and restructuring of humankind is possible. Vaishnavas have it. We have the knowledge. If we don't spread, it may take time for all people to accept, or many people to accept it, but unless there is a start in that direction and endeavor, it's never going to be fruitful. So we are duty bound to do this. So, fortunately or unfortunately, we'll read again the purport. Fortunately or unfortunately, we also meet such Mayavadis who criticize our method of chanting and accuse us of not being interested in study. They do not know that we have translated volumes and volumes of books into English, and that the students in our temples regularly study them in the morning, afternoon and evening. We are writing and printing books, and our students study them and distribute them all over the world. No Mayavadi school can present as many books as we have. You see? In fact, it's the opposite. The Vaishnavas have way more knowledge than the Mayavadis. The Mayavadis only limit their study to the Shruti, and that too misunderstanding everything. Whereas Vaishnavas understand Shruti, Smriti, everything, Purana. Pancharatra, Itihasa, everything they will understand. No Mayavadi school can present as many books as we have. Nevertheless, they accuse us of not being fond of study. Such accusations are completely false, but although we study, we do not study the nonsense of the Mayavadis. Mayavadi sannyasis neither chant nor dance. Their technical objection is that this method of chanting and dancing is called Tauriyatrika, which indicates that a sannyasi should completely avoid such activities and engage his time in the study of Vedanta. Actually, such men do not understand what is meant by Vedanta. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Krishna says, Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. Lord Krishna is the actual compiler of Vedanta, and whatever he speaks is Vedanta philosophy. Although they are lacking the knowledge of Vedanta presented by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental form of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mayavadis are very proud of their study. Foreseeing the bad effects of their presenting Vedanta philosophy in a perverted way, Srila Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam as a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhashyoyam Brahma Sutranam. Important. Bhashyoyam Brahma Sutranam. In other words, all the Vedanta philosophy in the aphorisms of the Brahma Sutra is thoroughly described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, let me take you to this verse. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. Now you see here, not this. Madhya 25.143 and 144. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam Bharatartha Vinirnayah Gayatri Bhashya Ruposau Vedartha Paribrahmhitah Puranam Samarupah Sakshad Bhagavatoditah द्वादशस्कन्धयुक्तोऽयं शतविच्छेदसंयुतः ग्रन्थोऽष्टादशसाहस्रः श्रीमद्भागवताभिधः. This is from the Garuda Puran. The meaning of the Vedanta Sutra is presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. In other words, that is the point I am trying to make. The meaning of the Vedanta Sutra is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. The full purport of the Mahabharata is also there. The commentary of the Brahma Gayatri is also there and fully expanded with all Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Puran and it was compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. There are 12 cantos, 335 chapters and 18,000 verses. This is a quotation from the Garuda Puran. Now you may ask, actually one person asked me. I also had this question before. The question was, Srimad Bhagavatam is the last book that was written by Vyasadeva. Then how come in the Garuda Puran there is a verse about Bhagavatam? So it is to be understood that this is written every time. Every Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva writes this. Just like in the Narsimha Puran there is mention of the Muslim man who chanted Haram Haram when the boar was attacking him. And he went back to Godhead because of chanting the name of Ram. Now, how that was even recorded? How come there is a mention of a Muslim man in the Narsimha Puran, which is very old, way before the Islam even came into existence? That means every Kali Yuga these things happen. So, likewise, in fact, another example I can give you, like the 12 Mahajans was spoken by Yamaraj very, very long ago. Many millions of years ago. But there he mentioned the name of Bhishma Dev in the 12 Mahajans. Janak Maharaj, who is father of Sita. Shukadeva Goswami. So they have come just 5,000 years ago. Yamaraj is speaking like millions of years ago. How come? Doesn't match. That means they come every time. In fact, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that this Chaitanya Charitamrita which I have written, the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is just a drop in the ocean of pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the future, Vyasadeva will come and write in great detail about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When that will happen? Maybe next Kali Yuga. Because you see, in Kali Yuga, the holy name is the method of deliverance. Now, in this Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come. What about next Kali Yuga? So, there is no chanting? There will be. So, other arrangements will be made. Like literature will be available. You see? About Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who came in this Kali Yuga. It's like Prahlad Maharaj came in a Satya Yuga which is way back in the past. And now we are reading about him. So likewise, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes also will be narrated in the future. So that's why we cannot have a very limited view of these things. These extend upon millions and millions of years. So we have to understand that way. So anyway, Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Whereas Shankaracharya came up with Shariraka Bhashya, his own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. But we have already Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary by Veda Vyas. So here the same thing is mentioned, Bhashyoyam Brahma Sutranam. In other words, all the Vedanta philosophy in the aphorisms of the Brahma Sutra is thoroughly described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, the factual propounder of Vedanta philosophy is a Krishna conscious person who always engages in reading and understanding the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, they are actually students of Vedanta. Veda Anta means the end of knowledge, the end of the quest for knowledge. So that is actually Krishna. All knowledge actually ends with him. After knowing him, there is nothing else to be known. He is the end of our quest for knowledge. So that's why he is called Vedanta. So one who understands Krishna, who is actually serving him actively, he is already on the stage of Vedanta. So only a devotee can be on that stage, nobody else. Okay? Thus, the factual propounder of Vedanta philosophy is a Krishna conscious person who always engages in reading and understanding the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and teaching the purport of these books to the entire world. The Mayavadis are very proud of having monopolized the Vedanta philosophy, but devotees have their own commentaries on Vedanta such as Srimad Bhagavatam and others written by the Acharyas. The commentary of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is the Govinda Bhashya by Baladev Vidyabhushan. The Mayavadis' accusation that devotees do not study Vedanta is false. The Mayavadis do not know that chanting, dancing and preaching the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, called Bhagavata Dharma, are the same as studying Vedanta. Since they think that reading Vedanta philosophy is the only function of a sannyasi, and they did not find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in such direct study, they criticized the Lord. Shripad Shankaracharya has given special stress to the study of Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sada Ramantah Kaupinavantah Khalubhagyavantah. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sada Ramantah Kaupinavantah Khalubhagyavantah. A sannyasi accepting the renounced order very strictly and wearing nothing more than a loincloth should always enjoy the philosophical statements in the Vedanta Sutra. Such a person in the renounced order is to be considered very fortunate. You see? So this is how Shankaracharya has taught that one has to relish the statements of the Vedanta Vakya, which is actually true. And now only devotees can relish the statements of Vedanta. Actually, Mayavadis don't have such relish. Devotees who are actually reading, they cannot stop reading. Now we can see this in the life of Sundar Gopal Prabhu, for example. In my practical life I have seen, every day he reads at least 2 hours. At least. and he has read the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita so many times over. It's unparalleled how much he reads every day. So, Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantah. That is true. But what is that enjoyment? That means one has to actually live by those principles, then the enjoyment comes. Because jnana is there, then vijnana also has to be there. So, this realization will come only when one actually engages in devotional service, and then only will he understand more the statements of the Vedanta. And Vedanta means Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Perfect Vedanta. I mean, Bhagavad Gita is Krishna himself speaking, the author of Vedanta Krit. He said, I am the compiler of Vedanta, Krishna said. And he himself is speaking. Author of Vedanta is speaking. How is that not Vedanta? So that is Vedanta. And Srimad Bhagavatam, which goes in much more detail about the same science. So these two actually constitute Vedanta. So we have to always relish the reading of Vedanta and put it into practice. Then our whole life, susukham kartum avyayam, with joyfully we can perform this Krishna consciousness. Our self-realization can be a joyful process, not like painful process. Whereas in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal kind of philosophy is mentioned as a painful process. First, let's see the joyful process of devotional service. Okay, 9.2. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitramidamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. See, joyfully performed. Susukham kartum avyayam. Sukham means happy. Susukham means very happy. Very joyful process. In contrast, we have the impersonalist path. 12.5. Klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. How can we then be established in Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantaha? Ramanta means always relishing. How can we relish if the whole path is troublesome? So actually what he said is true. We have to be relishing these statements and not relishing the materialistic statements of fools. But that is only possible for devotees. Kaupinamanta, what is that? Kaupinavanta Khalubhagyavanta, fortunate person, who is wearing just a loincloth. That means minimizing all kinds of material luxuries and everything. Just very simple life. And of course, sannyasis, they actually used to follow like that, only kaupin, loincloth. But for us, at least, we have to wear, that's why we have these saffron colored cloth. So, that means we just have to completely stay away from all kinds of material attractions and luxuries, and because that's not going to be a joyful process. It's actually a very painful process, even running after wealth and all that opulence. That's another nityartidena vittena. Let's go there. Just we will see that verse and come back here. 11.3.19. You will see here. Nityartidena vittena durlabhena atma mrityuna grihapatyapta pashubhi kapriti sadhita ischalaihi. Just now we have seen impersonalism is a difficult path. Now, what to speak of material life? This is the thing. Wealth is a perpetual source of distress. It is most difficult to acquire and is virtual death for the soul. What satisfaction does one actually gain from his wealth? Similarly, how can one gain ultimate or permanent happiness from one's so-called home, children, relatives and domestic animals, which are all maintained by one's hard-earned money? So it's actually a very painful process, this materialistic life. But you see the Shad Goswamis, 6 Goswamis, Tyaktva Turnamashesha Mandalapatim Shrenim Sada Tuchhavat Bhutva Dina Ganeshakao Karunaya Kaupina Kantha Shritao. They have worn just loincloths. They were great, government officers in big posts they had materially. They gave up everything. And then what they did? They just accepted loincloth. They became mendicants. Why? Bhutva Dina Ganeshakao Karunaya. To show mercy to the fallen people of this world. They have taken up missionary activities to help everyone. So, these words of Shankaracharya can only be done by devotees. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramanta Kaupinamanta Kalubhagyavanta. We will go back. 12.5. So it is very difficult, this impersonalistic path. Now I will show you another verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. This is spoken by Brahma. 10.14.4 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shreyasritim bhaktim udasyate vibho klishyanti. Klishyanti, what is that? Struggle. Klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye tesham asau kleshalaye vashishyate nanyadyatha sthula tushavaghatinam. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. So these people, they study Vedanta with full of speculation, without taking the direct meaning of the Vedas. Mukhya vritti and Abhidha vritti, or Gauna vritti. That means, Mukhya vritti means the real meaning, direct meaning, directly evident meaning. And Abhidha vritti means to concoct some meaning, which is not actually intended by the author. That is dangerous. So that is speculation. Such people, even if they read Vedas full, it will be a waste of time. His only gain is what? Trouble. Kleshodhikatarastesham. Another verse is also there. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:18. Shabda Brahmani Nishnato Nanishnaayat Pare Yadi Shramastasya Shramafalo Hi Adhenum Ivarakshataha. If through meticulous study one becomes expert in reading Vedic literature, but makes no endeavor to fix one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one's endeavor is certainly like that of a man who works very hard to take care of a cow that gives no milk. In other words, the fruit of one's laborious study of Vedic knowledge will simply be the labor itself. There will be no other tangible result. See? No tangible result in such Vedic study. This is more direct than the previous one. So, we have to understand, in the other verse also there, Srimad Bhagavatam 1-8, all these verses point to the same thing. Dharma svanushtita pumsam. Svanushtita means what, According to one's varna and ashrama, one has to do one's duty. Now, sannyas is also one of the ashramas. Now, the sannyas duty is Vedanta study and all this. So, dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvaksena kathasu yaha notpadayet yadi ratim shrama evahi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position. Own position means in the varnashram system. Whether he is a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, or brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, according to his position in the society and advancement in spiritual life, he has to perform his respective duties. So sannyas duties, as stated, they have to be studying Vedanta. So if one performs his duties according to his position, they are only useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Mayavadis are in this position. It's a waste of time. Useless labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So, all these verses point to this one point. That a sannyasi accepting the renounced order very strictly and wearing nothing more than a loincloth should always enjoy the philosophical statements in the Vedanta Sutra. Such a person in the renounced order is to be considered very fortunate. The Mayavadis in Varanasi blasphemed Lord Chaitanya because his behavior did not follow these principles. But actually, he was always Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantah. He was always enjoying the Vedanta Vakyeshu. And what is the highest Vakya of Vedanta? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Iti Shodashakam Namnam, Kali Kalmashanashanam, Nata Parataropaya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. What is that? Iti Shodashakam Namnam, Kali Kalmashanashanam, Nata Parataropaya. Nata means there is no other higher statement in the Vedas. Vedanta Vakya. Vakya means statements, sentences. So there is no other Vakya which is greater than this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So actually he was following the principle of sannyas, but they could not understand it. They did because they did not understand the glory of the holy name. And therefore they think that he is not following the principle. He was definitely following. In fact, he was the one who is really enjoying, so much so that he is singing and dancing. They are just, with grave faces, almost sad. They are studying the Vedanta, but they are not receiving any real enjoyment from that. They have some minuscule enjoyment, but that is nothing compared to the ocean of enjoyment of devotional service, and that is explained by Rupa Goswami, right? Srimad Bhagavatam 7:37 purport. You see, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is saying, Brahmanando bhave desha chetparardha gunikritah naiti bhakti sukham bodhe paramanu tulamapi. If Brahmananda, that means impersonal happiness, the bliss of merging in the Brahman effulgence, were multiplied 100 trillion times, okay, it would still not equal even an atomic fragment of the ocean of transcendental bliss felt in devotional service. Just incomparable. Moksha Laghuta Krit. One of the aspects of devotional service is Kleshagni Subhada Moksha Laghuta Krit Sandrananda Visheshatma Sri Krishna Akarshini Chasa. I think 1795, right? Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 1795. This is also from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Kleshagni Shubhada Moksha Laghutakrit Sudurlabha. That I missed out Sudurlabha. Sandrananda Visheshatma Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa. These are the 6 aspects of devotional service. 6 effects of devotional service. Kleshagni, it removes, it kills all trouble. Whereas his impersonal path, Kleshodhikatara Stesham, Adhikatara, very, very difficult. Whereas here, Kleshagni, Shubhada, the giver of good fortune, Moksha Laghutakrit, it completely makes insignificant the pleasure derived from this speculative understanding of Vedanta, of so-called moksha. In fact, it is called Vimukta Maninaha. They only think they are liberated, but they are not actually. Sudurlabha, it is very, very difficult to achieve. Very difficult to achieve. But once achieved, that is the greatest gain. Very rarely achieved. Sandrananda, Visheshatma, one becomes very, very ecstatic and he becomes a very special soul. And Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa, it is the only thing that attracts Sri Krishna. Krishna means Akarshan, who attracts everyone. But Krishna is Akarshini. Krishna Karshini means one who attracts even the all attractive Krishna. That is only devotional service. So, going back to this, the Mayavadis in Varanasi blasphemed Lord Chaitanya because his behavior did not follow these principles. Lord Chaitanya, however, bestowed his mercy upon these Mayavadi sannyasis and delivered them by means of his Vedanta discourses. Vedanta discourses with Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. His knowledge was so powerful that Prakashananda Saraswati, who had 60,000 disciples, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had unlimited disciples. Sarvabhauma means the entire earth was conquered by him. Nobody was there on earth who could match him in philosophical debate or argument or discussion. He was so vastly scholarly. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated him. Prakashananda Saraswati was defeated. Now, just by defeating them, the followers automatically followed suit. So he did not just defeat two people, he defeated many thousands of people, millions of people, just by defeating these two people. This is the method one should apply, even devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have to defeat these so-called influences so that many thousands can be helped. Not just it is a matter of defeating that one person. No, it is a matter of helping thousands. So you see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dealt with this whole issue. So we have to accept such similar. For that we have to first of all have knowledge, no? If we don't read every day, how are we going to get anything? We should not just jump into arguments. No. First, spend time fully reading Prabhupada's books and assimilating the knowledge, trying to understand it very nicely. And then, yes, in order to present Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, then we can actually properly present. And not only that, we have to follow. We just can't read and then present. Purity is the force, Prabhupada said. With purity, the statements will have force. It will penetrate the heart. It will strike the sincere souls. So we have to have the purity of conduct. And that means the whole spiritual program, especially of the morning program. Waking up for Mangalarti, chanting rounds Hare Krishna nicely. And then there is the Guru Puja, the Srimad Bhagavatam class, reading of Prabhupada's books, eating only Krishna Prasadam. And all our activities in the domain of only Krishna consciousness. These are all essential principles. If we don't have these sadhana in place, our conduct is not pure, our thoughts will not be pure, our understanding will not be pure, and with such understanding and such conduct, if we preach, that is not going to be effective. We have to first of all assimilate. Janma sarthak kori karo paropakar. Don't jump into paropakar without our janma becoming sarthaka first. Sarthak means not that I have to become pure devotee, but I have to follow the pure conduct. Follow the orders of the pure devotee. Then automatically, even if I am not pure, my conduct, my understanding will be pure. Because I am just accepting as it is and following as it is. Both should be there. Accepting the knowledge and following. Sarvameta dhritam manye. Arjuna said, I accept whatever you say, Krishna. And finally he said, Karishya vachanam tava. I will do also whatever you ask me to do. Not just I will follow. I accept what you say, but I don't follow what you say. Ask me to do. No, that means we are not accepting in full. So our conduct should be pure. And then yes, we can take on all these things by the mercy of the Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. We can take on any number of these nonsense philosophies. We don't have to even study their philosophy. Just by listening to that, we will catch what is the problem. But one has to be expert in the study of real philosophy first. Then one can notice these faults, these fault lines of the philosophy, and then work on that crack and then break it apart. Then educate the masses with real philosophy. Wow, we have only covered already 1.5 hours. We'll just try to finish this episode of the Mayavadis. Okay. मूर्ख सन्यासी निज धर्म नाही जाने. Oh, जने. Okay. मूर्ख सन्यासी निज धर्म नाही जने, भावुक इया फेरे भावुके रसने. मूर्ख सन्यासी, they call him मूर्ख सन्यासी, foolish, illiterate सन्यासी. मूर्ख सन्यासी निज धर्म नाही जने, भावुक इया फेरे भावुके रसने. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an illiterate sannyasi and therefore does not know his real function. Guided only by his sentiments, he wanders about in the company of other sentimentalists. Purport. Foolish Mayavadis, not knowing that the Krishna consciousness movement is based on a solid philosophy of transcendental science, superficially conclude that those who dance and chant do not have philosophical knowledge. Those who are Krishna conscious actually have full knowledge of the essence of Vedanta philosophy, for they study the real commentary on the Vedanta philosophy, Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the actual words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as found in Bhagavad Gita as it is. After understanding the Bhagavad philosophy or Bhagavad Dharma, they become fully spiritually conscious or Krishna conscious, and therefore their chanting and dancing is not material but is on the spiritual platform. Although everyone admires the ecstatic chanting and dancing of the devotees, who are therefore popularly known as the Hare Krishna people, Mayavadis cannot appreciate these activities because of their poor fund of knowledge. ए सब सुनिया प्रभु हासे मने मने, उपेक्षा करिया कारो ना कोइला संभाषणे. ए सब सुनिया प्रभु हासे मने मने, उपेक्षा करिया कारो ना कोइला उपेक्षा करिया कारो ना कोइला संभाषणे. Hearing all this blasphemy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merely smiled to himself, rejecting all these accusations, and did not talk with the Mayavadis. Purport. As Krishna conscious devotees, we do not like to converse with Mayavadi philosophers simply to waste valuable time, but whenever there is an opportunity, we impress our philosophy upon them with great vigor and success. उपेक्षा करिया कोइलो मथुरागमन, मथुरा देखिया पुनः कोइलो आगमन. Thus, neglecting the blasphemy of the Varanasi Mayavadis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded to Mathura, and after visiting Mathura, he returned to meet the situation. Purport. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not talk with the Mayavadi philosophers when he first visited Varanasi, but he returned there from Mathura to convince them of the real purpose of Vedanta. काशीते लेखक शूद्र श्री चंद्रशेखर, तार घरे रहिला प्रभु स्वतंत्र ईश्वर. Well, this is actually another topic. We will actually go into this in the next episode. Alright. Actually, these are only the synopsis of the activities. These activities of the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati, these were fully expanded. Even the talks, what is the subject matter of their talks, and everything is mentioned in great detail in the Madhya Lila. These are only just mentions of those events. Okay, so we'll stop it here at 44. And we'll continue in the next episode. I'll take any questions if there are. Dhiradas is saying, Adila 1724 purport. We cannot make compromises with these so-called jnanis, yogis, karmis and tapasvis. When they say they are as good as we are, we must say that only we are good and they are not good. This is not our obstinacy, it is the injunction of the Shastras. Now, not only we have to say that they are not good, we have to also prove that they are not good. Prove it. Because just by saying, they will say you are fanatic. But if we prove it scientifically, philosophically, then nobody can say anything. If they say anything, they will look like fools. But if we just say they are not good, and we don't present a reason, although it is the truth, people will not appreciate. So to prove that they are not good by our sound philosophy, we have to. That means we have to first of all understand why we are only good and why they are not good. We have to find. We have to know their fault. What makes them not good? If we just say, we have to support our claim. Yes, we have to say that they are not good, but why? What was his problem? What did he do that is not good? We must be able to say, support our claim, and support through Shastric statements what is actually the correct procedure to follow, or philosophy, whatever it is. So we have to substantiate our claims, otherwise we will be seen as fools. Satyam Chaudhary. Hare Krishna Prabhu, what should we do if the laws of the government don't match with the laws of Krishna? If we go by the laws of Krishna, we may get punished by the government. Just like Russia devotees faced a lot of problems in the earlier days and got punished like anything. That's true. It's a very, this is something which the devotees usually face. Not only in Kali Yuga, but we had the same incident in Bhagavatam, where Prahlad Maharaj was devotee. His father is the government. His father was the government of not only one planet but many planets, even heavenly planets also he conquered. So under his government, nobody is allowed to worship Vishnu. Nobody is allowed to worship God. But what did Prahlad do? He just worshipped God. He did not fight with Hiranyakashipu, but his fight was that he did not listen to him. Not because he did not want to listen. No. It's just because it is not the truth. It is not that he wanted to show that he is a greater person. No. He just had none of those desires. So how did he conduct himself? He just knew the truth that one has to be a devotee of Krishna, and he always chanted Krishna's name. No matter what were the rulings, he just continued his chanting. And in fact, whenever he got opportunity, he preached. He was put in a school so that he will learn some diplomacy and all these politics. But then he went to the school. When the school teachers went away for something, he gathered the fellow students and preached to them Krishna consciousness. Even though the government and the school, everything was atheistic, he preached. So like that, we have to find whatever opportunities we have to preach. In the beginning, it may not be looking like very significant. Like for example, Hiranyakashipu had the entire demigods, earthly planets, the subterranean planets, everything under his control. And Prahlad Maharaj was only preaching in one of the schools of his kingdom, and that too to a few fellow students. So apparently it did not look like very much. But eventually such efforts by the devotees, Krishna takes notice. Narasimhadev came, ousted Hiranyakashipu, and Prahlad Maharaj is glorified all over the three worlds. So, and his Bhagavad Dharma is studied even today. Today we are reading his Bhagavad Dharma, that his philosophy. So this is the fame of the devotee. This is how Krishna arranges. See, a devotee is always wanting to serve Krishna. And when he takes up the service of Krishna, Krishna takes up the service of the devotee so that that service can be expanded like anything. Just like Arjuna. Arjuna said, Karishya Vachanam Tava. Yes, I will fight according to your order. Now Krishna became Arjuna's servant so that he can fight to the best of his ability. He can perfect his service of fighting for Krishna. So much so that he became successful, and whatever danger that came towards him also was nullified. So when we take up Krishna's service, even though it may look insignificant in the beginning, whoever we can, Yare Dekha Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh, whomever you see, meet, talk about Krishna. Simple thing to do. Now you may say, well, that is not very, only 1-2 people are meeting and then 3 people, 4 people. How much difference it's going to make? No, that's not the point. If we do that as a regular function, then Krishna will support. And his support, when his support comes, nobody can match. Nobody can match. What is his support? Just by his being on our side, it is support. Jayastu Panduputranam Yesham Pakshe Janardana. It is said the success of the Pandavas in the Kurukshetra battle was that Krishna was on their side. Now you may say Krishna did not support them, he did not even fight. He's just sitting there doing nothing. Even that is enough. See, Krishna does not have to physically fight. Just by his will, everything is taking place. Come on. So we have to be on his side. That's all. We have to speak. So that should be our conduct. So if government laws do not match the Shastric laws, what can we do? So we can preach the real laws and save the people. So government will have one standard, but our standard is much higher. Much higher. So if we follow the Krishna conscious standards, automatically we will be following the government standards because they are way lower. Like murder, for example. If you murder, then you will be punished by the law. But a devotee does not even want to kill a bird or animal or anything, whereas that is not considered a big sin in the constitution of today's countries, Kali Yuga's countries. But our Vaishnava standard is so much more higher. Of course, he will not want to harm any human being. What to speak of human being, he will not want to harm any animal also, bird also, insect also. So he already is following the much higher standards. This is easy. So, but we have to bring people to the real standard, because the state may not punish, Krishna will punish. Yamaraj is there. His state will work. He has constitution. That constitution we cannot escape. So we have to advise people how to follow this Bhagavad Dharma. Automatically all the lower things will be done. That's why we cannot rely on the state, on the government to follow our religious principles. We have to have a much higher bar, much higher standards of conduct. Previously the government used to uphold such conduct, such high standard of conduct. Now no. But what to do? We have to do it. We have to take the initiative and preach to the other people what is the real standard and what are the real standards of Krishna. Then once they're educated, they're like, all of you are devotees, you are following this conduct because you know the importance of it. So we have to just make everybody know the importance of Krishna consciousness. Then they will be willing to follow our standards of conduct. Srila Prabhupada went there, he did not preach the standards of conduct. He just preached about Krishna consciousness. He chanted, he gave Krishna Prasadam, he preached nice philosophy. Then people got attracted by this. And once they were attracted, they understood the value of it. Then they wanted to automatically follow it. And follow means, now the rules all come in. And now the standard of conduct is maintained at that level. So that's what we have to do. That is how our program is to be. Our preaching methods should be implemented. Well, this is the link of the gardening lessons of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the Tattvadarshan episode we have done recently. So of course you can read from the 19th chapter of the Madhya Lila also. We have basically read that part and then explained a little bit. In fact, we could have gone much deeper, but it's just a 1 hour session. So Kristodorya, yes, by turning a blind eye we are not helping them at all. Yeah, we have to speak up. Dhiradas, Lord Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come once in every one day of Brahma. Yes, once. That means in 1000 cycles of the 4 yugas they come only once, and this is that time, this is that cycle. How fortunate we are. But if we don't take advantage of this, how unfortunate we are, or how unfortunate we will be, or anybody will be. That's why we should not make anybody unfortunate. We have to make everybody fortunate. That should be the principle of devotee. Christo Dorje, can you explain the conclusive ideal of the foolish Mayavadi interpretation of Vedanta, since they do not accept Krishna as the source of all causes? Well, they say Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. Actually, there are very, very detailed explanations of this. In previous sessions of Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have covered the Mayavadi philosophy. Basically, they think that Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. The Brahman is truth. In their understanding, Brahman is just that light. They don't understand what is the source of the light, who is the source of nothing. And Jagan Mithya, they say this world is illusion, and activities, everything that is in this world is illusion. So therefore, their understanding of spiritual status or spiritual state of existence is opposite of material state of existence. So anything that is here, they say in spiritual existence it is not there. Here there is hot and cold. In the spiritual there is no hot and cold. Here there is anger and love. And there is no anger and love. So everything that is here, they just negation. By negation they define. Not this, not this. That is why it is called neti, neti. Na iti, not this, not this, not this. But what it is, they don't know. This is their problem. So they cannot clearly define. Now, if I hide something in my hand and I ask you to say what it is and you cannot guess, I say it is not a pen, it is not a paper, it is not this, it is not that. It is not. You may understand, okay, it is not this, it is not. What it is, you won't understand. Then if I reveal, this is what it is, then you will understand. So, we should know what actually the truth is. Their definition of truth is by negation. By what is found in the material world, this is not the truth. This is not the truth. The truth is not this. The truth is not this. The truth is not this. But what it is, they don't know. And similarly, when the Lord comes into this world as an incarnation, because of this false philosophy they have, because they understand that in this world everything has a form, like everything has a form here, so that means in the spiritual world there is no form. The absolute truth has no form. This is all relative. Anything that has a form is relative, and that means absolute should not have form. So when the Lord takes form, they consider that form as illusory form, or that Brahma has come in the form of taken on a material form, because for them form means material. That's why Mayavadi. Everything for them is Maya. So this is basically what they understand. And they also think that we can also become Brahma, one with Aham Brahmasmi. We can also become one, Brahma. So Brahma means spirit, the all-pervasive spirit. That's what they understand. But they don't understand the difference between Brahma and Parabrahma. Why are there two words? They cannot answer that. So this is their misunderstandings. So next, Prem Vikas Prabhu. So by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, if we can defeat some of ISKCON gurus, bogus guru, we can take over whole ISKCON under ISKM, and everyone should follow Srila Prabhupada's Ritvik system. I am waiting for that day, Prabhu. Yes. We should not just wait. We have to work for it. It's not going to happen. Krishna will not give us unless we serve him. Of course, Krishna's plan will go on. Now, we will not be part of that plan. So, if we want to experience, we have to work for it. It's like Krishna said, Arjuna, you just wait. Okay, you don't want to fight, you are disturbed, right? Okay, never mind. You just wait. I will finish these people, and after 18 days, you can have good life. No, you fight. You fight. So, we have to fight. Then Krishna becomes our servant. Krishna will not become our servant when we wait. Of course, I know what you mean. You are also preaching. But for those who don't understand this, they think waiting means, we'll wait and then let Krishna is taking care of everything. He will take care of the souls. Yes, he will take care. Through his devotees, he will take care. But do we want to be one of those? An instrument in Krishna's plan? That is what matters. If we are instruments in Krishna's plan, then it is our benefit. But if we did not serve him in that mission, then it is not our benefit. Not to our benefit. So, we have to work. We have to fight for him. Raj Panchal. Hare Krishna Prabhu, is there verse which says Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary of the Vedanta Sutras? I showed you, no? You did not see? Maybe you asked this before I showed, is it? There. Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita 25.143 and 44. Taken from the Garuda Puran. We have mentioned this. अर्थोऽयं ब्रह्मसूत्राणां भारतार्थविनिर्णयः गायत्री भाष्यरूपोऽसौ वेदार्थपरिबृंहितः पुराणानां सामरूपः साक्षात् भगवतोदितः द्वादशस्कन्धयुक्तोऽयं शतविच्छेदसंयुतः ग्रन्थोऽष्टादशसाहस्रः श्रीमद्भागवताभिधः. This is the verse, 2 verses from Garuda Puran. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. This is the verse. Dhiradas is asking, means out of 994 Kali Yuga, only one Kali Yuga Krishna comes? Why? Where did you get 994? 1000. 1000 Kali Yugas. Only one Kali Yuga. 1 in 1000. 1000 cycles of the 4 Yugas is 1 day of Brahma. Dhiradas. Oh, whole screen is taken up. Hare Krishna Prabhu, how do Mayavadis interpret Bhagavad Gita? Because in Bhagavad Gita there are many verses where Krishna says directly, there is no one above me. I am the base of impersonal Brahman. Path of impersonal is very troublesome. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. Unintelligent men who do not know me think that I have assumed this form and personality. My activities and birth is transcendental. Like this, many verses are there which are sufficient enough to defeat Mayavad philosophy. Still, why they don't accept their defeat? What explanation they have? Well, I have not read their explanation, but it is only clear to us because we have heard it from the proper source. When you don't hear it from Parampara, you can interpret it in many ways. In fact, that 724, that can be interpreted in other ways by Mayavadis. So I have not particularly seen their translations, but I wouldn't want to see them also. But if they present, we can defeat because we understand their real meaning, because we have heard from the Parampara system. That is why it is clear to us. What we take for granted as very simple to understand, it is only because of the extreme mercy of Srila Prabhupada coming in the Parampara. Without this Evam Parampara Praptam, without Parampara, you see how many people are writing on Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita. They cannot understand because of this. They don't follow the Parampara system. That's why their understanding is bewildering. Dhiradas has come up with the calculation 14 times 71, 994. Roughly we take it as 1000 Kali Yugas. No. My dear Dhiradas Prabhu, you know how the 71 came about? 1000 divided by 14 is what? 71 point something. It is not 71 is the thing and then we round figure. No, it is not round figure. It is actually 1000. Each Manu stays for 71 point something cycles. It is not exactly 71 cycles. And then there is this Yuga Sandhya. There is Manvantara Sandhya also. This is the last part of this Manu and the next part of the first part of the next Manu. That part is Sandhya. So, like that it is. Now, if 1000 divided by 14, we got 71 point something. You took it as round figure 71 and then multiplied it by 14 and got 994. Then you say roughly 1000. No, 71 is the rough figure, not the 1000 is the rough figure. 71 point, what is it? Let's divide. (1000) divided by 14, 71.42857142868571 like that. So that is how the number. 71 is the round figure. Dhiradas Prabhu, sorry, I was told like that. Yeah. See, we can understand from this Bhagavad Gita 8:17. Sahasra yuga paryantam maharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. By human calculation, 1000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's 1 day. And such also is the duration of his night. You see? So 1000 here is mentioned, no? Sahasra yuga paryantam. Soundari Balasubramaniam. Why in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4.7 Srijamyaham word is mentioned? Yeah, so that is explained by Prabhupada. This is a good question actually. You know why? Because Srijami means manifest. But actually Srijami means I have created. Creation means material. In the spiritual world there is no creation, right? So Srijami, why did he use Srijami? Because this is how the Mayavadis actually interpret. Now you have asked, right? How they interpret when there are so many conclusive translations, conclusive meanings. But only because of parampara. But if you don't hear from parampara, they will make another meanings out of this. You see, Srijami means creation. Tadatmanam Srijami aham. Create this material form. So anything that is material is created. Anything that is spiritual is not created because it is eternal. Eternal means it is never created. So Srijami means they say created because actually that's one of the words, one of the meanings of the word Srijami. I have created. So that means it is material. So that is the way Krishna explained. You see the word here in the purport. First thing Prabhupada is attacking that point. The word Srijami is significant herein. Srijami cannot be used in the sense of creation because according to the previous verse, there is no creation of the Lord's form or body since all the forms are eternally existence. That's why we have to understand in context. If we see the context here, 4.6, the before verse, Ajopi san avyayatma. Aja means unborn. Avyayatma. Bhutanam is Ishvaropi san. So you see, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. You see? So he has, his is Ajaha. That means he never takes birth. That means his is not like our birth where our body is created. When we take birth, our body is Srija. There is a creation of our body in the womb of the mother. But in Krishna's case, there is no creation. It is his body. There is no difference between his body and soul. So, in context, we have to take therefore. So, with Mayavadi philosophy, what happens is they regularly, one statement here and another statement here, they don't match. They contradict each other. If you put all of them together, they contradict. When they are in one place, they will describe it in one way. When they go to another place, they describe it in another way. But then they don't see that actually both of them are contradictory to each other. So you see, in fact, this point was made in one of the purports earlier. In earlier sessions we have read, in detail we have read how they are whole. I think, what is that purport? I think 2.42, 2.43 of the Vedanta Sutra. Wait, I will just mention the purport. You can go and read it yourself. Is this the one? Yes, you see this? Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 5, text 41. Okay, you go and read this. Take a note. Adi Leela 5.41. You go and read the purport. How the Vedanta Sutra is thoroughly defeated by, I think, Jiva Goswami. Yeah, Jiva Goswami actually defeats this, and this whole purport is very long. We have gone through this in great detail in previous one of the sessions, 5.41, and you can watch that session also, and you can read this verse. Then you will understand how their philosophy is so defective. Okay? All right. That's it. So, thank you very much for your participation, and we will see you again in our next episode of, I think, Bhagavad Gita or Tattva-darshan. Alright, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Panchatattva ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Ananta Kodi Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.